Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Almost said Tuesday. Monday, the 14th of November. It's a very cold day today. Hope you're all doing good. I think we're on episode 10 of this podcast. Managed to keep it consistent. I missed the 1 week in September as I was on holiday, but we've been consistent. I've had some technical issues over the 10 weeks. YouTube hasn't been successful. Facebook has just come through today, fortunately. Instagram has been consistent. Recordings, I've tried to get onto YouTube. They haven't always been successful. Sometimes they have been. Bear with me. Flashback a few years back, let's say about 3-4 years now, which is crazy to say. I used to be the biggest technophobe known to man. I used to get very het up, frustrated, anxious when it come to technology. I would want an outcome from it, but there was a disconnect between me and the computer, me and the laptop, and so on. So I'd paralyze and I'd just get frustrated and I'd just walk away. I'd be the bigger man and walk away. Flash forward to now. I'm in a lot of better place. Yes, this hasn't been perfect. I haven't always got the podcast going the way I've wanted. Videos haven't always uploaded the way I've wanted, but I've took it in my stride. I've took it in the process. That is growth for me. It's all personal. One man's challenge is another man's breeze. Just made that saying up. And I think this ties in with mental health. Your relationship with things, how you get frustrated with things, how you get frustrated with yourself, how you avoid things because it annoys you. It might sound petty or silly, but honestly, if you would have asked me about 3-4 years ago, I would have hated any form of technology, even though it's not like I'm an old man. I am a kind of old, but I'm only a millennial. So I'm taking it in the process. I'm not there yet. I haven't got my YouTube synced up with all this yet. Almost didn't get to be able to do this on Facebook today, but I persisted, and the key word is progression, not perfection. So we're going to make the best out of this situation. Today I want to talk to you about the topic of mental health. It's November, Movember, raising awareness for mental health, full stop. But in particular, men's mental health. This is for everyone, but there is a slight twist of when it comes to being a man. Everyone has some form of challenges with mental health. It's your health, but in your mind, just like your physical health. It is something to be maintained, something to be serviced. But unfortunately, because it's not physical and it's not tangible, other people can't see if you're struggling. Even you can't see if you're struggling. We can see the side effects of our mental health not being in a great place, but we can't see it and hold it in our hand and say it's definitely this. So unfortunately, what that means is a lot of the times we end up downplaying it. We end up dismissing it. Other people sometimes dismiss it. There's a term for this nowadays which is called gaslighting, which is when you manipulate someone, you make someone paranoid into believing what they're feeling and what they think and what they believe isn't actually true. And because you don't have a physical bit of evidence for it, unless you've got a doctor's note, unless you've got a professional that has told you that you're struggling with X, Y, or Z, we can sometimes buy into it. And then what happens on the back of that is we end up judging ourselves for having all these symptoms, whether that's frustration, whether that's anxiety, whether that's OCD, whether that's feeling really low. We get more frustrated with ourselves because we don't give ourselves the space, the patience that maybe we are struggling in some way, shape or form. I was talking to someone a couple of weeks back, and I've always found this fascinating for the last few years, that I wonder if mental health was an issue back in the 80s, 90s, 70s. Is it just the fact that it's a topic of conversation now, or is it just more of a problem? Whereas I actually think it's the first one. I think the good thing is it's a topic of conversation. People are aware of it, people talk about it, people understand the importance of it. And back in the day, people just think he's just a stressed guy, he's just a grumpy guy, he's just this type of guy, which obviously didn't help the problem. So the weird thing is, lifestyle is getting better. We've got more safety, we've got more food, we've got more opportunities, we've got more support, we've got easier way to access other people. Yes, it's via technology a lot of the time, but unfortunately, mental health is on the decline. So obviously something isn't working. I want to first open up to you all about my experiences with mental health, my challenges, what I've had to overcome, what I deal with. So basically, let's say about 5-6 years ago, I kind of had an honest conversation with myself that, like, it's not normal the way I approach relationships. It's not normal the way I approach people, how anxious and how much I'd overthink situations, not just with partners, not just with the opposite sex, but with people in general. I would overthink, I would be guilty, I would replay scenarios that I'd went through. Hello, Siebert, there's a wave. So often, on a day-to-day basis, I just thought, this can't be normal, the way that I talk to myself, the way I feel about myself. And I remember doing a bit of research on it, and I thought, you know what, I've clearly got a low self-esteem, I've got a low self-worth, because I noticed I struggled very often to set boundaries with people. I'd struggle to say, you know what, that's not for me. I would be a people pleaser. I would do things from a place of, I have to, and what if I say no to someone and then I think this and then I'll do that, X, Y, Z. So I noticed that I'd had a low self-esteem. That was my first introduction to being aware that maybe my mental health wasn't in a great place, because all I was aware of was the byproducts, the outcomes. The outcomes were overthinking, being very introverted, overthinking certain social situations, getting in unhealthy relationships, and so on. So I noticed the symptoms, the outcomes that I didn't like, and that's often what we become aware of, and then we backtrack. Hopefully we backtrack and think, where does this come from? Why am I doing this? This isn't particularly normal, quote unquote. And even if it is normal, it's not optimal, it's not nice, it's not a good way to live your life. So I reached out to a therapist. This is about 5-6 years ago. It was scary to do it. I probably overthought it for a long time, because it's a very difficult thing to diagnose yourself and say, I'm struggling with this in my mind. And then obviously the stigmas that are attached with it, whether that is being a man, whether that's being an adult, whether that's a British thing, stiff upper lip thing, whether that's a black Caribbean thing, who knows? Many factors were at play. So I think the biggest challenge, yet the biggest solution with mental health, is to talk about it, not just with a professional, but with someone. But at the same time, I get the difficulty of that, as I've just mentioned, the cultural norms of just cracking on with it, the cultural norms of, well, everyone I know has an addiction to alcohol, or everyone I know is always stressed, or everyone I know deals with their problems this way. But then the question is it the way you want to live your life? So that was my introduction to some of the mental health problems that I was having. And then, as I mentioned, it spilled over into my relationships. It spilled over into my career, my confidence in career, asking for what I want in life. Like, quick segue, before, shout out to Siebert, I was an actor before being a personal trainer and coach. In both industries, being a coach, being an actor, even other industries that I've been in, you've got to put yourself out there and ask for what you want. No one's just going to give it you. Yes, opportunities do come to you, but you've got to have the audacity, you've got to have the persistence to ask for opportunities and keep going for it. But unfortunately, my low self-worth, my low self-esteem, the courage to ask for what I want was holding me back. And that's what put me in that dark place where I was like, you know what, something's got to change. So I think for me, the root cause was low self-esteem, and that at times made me anxious, that at times made me depressed because I was fed up of the outcomes in my life. So if this is going to help you, I'd ask you, if you're in a place that you're struggling, or you've been in a place, or just for you to make a note of, if you ever get to a place of frustration, I'd ask you to find out, what is it exactly that you're struggling with? For me, it was setting boundaries, asking for what I want, seeing value in myself enough to fight for myself in career, in relationships, in so many ways. Because ultimately, whether you were like me and you suffered with low self-esteem, or you're someone that struggles with depression, or if you're someone that has anxiety, or if you're someone that has OCD, or whatever the case may be, we've all got similar goals. We've all got similar wants and needs. We all want to be confident to a certain extent, because when we're confident, we feel comfortable and accepting of ourselves, and we have faith that we can move forward and withstand challenges, episodes, variables, things that come up in life. We also want to be more fulfilled. We want to have a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning, a sense of fulfillment. Hello, Jess McDonough. Long time no speak. There's a wave. We all want to have some sense of fulfillment in our life that makes us get up in the morning and want to attack the day, overcome challenges, and to have a sense of satisfaction at the end of the day. We also want to have better relationships with people around us. We want to feel more connected, trusted, looked after, cared about. That's another thing that we can all say we want on some level, some people more than others. We also want to have a better relationship with the future, the unknown, because that's inevitable, isn't it? We can't control the future. We can't control the past either, but the future, we want to have a better relationship with the fact that I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. I don't know what my industry is going to be like next year. I don't know what challenges are going to come up in any scenario, the economy, whatever. We want to have a better relationship with that, because we can't change that. That's the sad news. We can't change it, but we can change your relationship with it. And like Maya Angelou said, if you don't like it, change it. And if you can't change it, change your attitude towards it. And then the final thing that I'd confidently say that we all want is to feel more present in the moment. We want to be here right now, fully embrace it, and take one step at a time. And the thing that gets in the way of that is overthinking the future and dwelling on the past. Regrets, I should have done this, what did that person think? And in the future, I want to try and control that. The two things that we can't control, we end up focusing on. And the one thing that we can control, we end up overlooking. So the things that I've just said there, that we all want, 9 times out of 10, all of you are going to want all of them. Maybe you don't want one of them. And I've said more confidence, more fulfillment in your life, better relationships with other people, more connection, better relationship with a better relationship with the future, the unknown, and to feel more present in the present moment. So there's many different ways, there's many different self-help books, personal development books that will give a different spin on how to improve your mental health, improve your life. Some books will focus on the outside in, improve your life, your finances, and that will make you feel better on the inside. Some spiritual books will be like, okay, like a Buddhist type of book or an Eastern philosophy book will focus on the inside, and then that will pour out into the outside. Some books will focus on being in the present rather than the future and the past. Some books will focus on long-term gratification rather than short-term gratification. But all of these things end up rounding up, coming back to the present moment, because that's what we're in control of. And I want to talk to you about a very important formula, which is very good to reflect on when you are feeling anxious or if you are feeling depressed. And you can use it as a framework in your head and ask yourself the right questions to take back your control and coach yourself to move forward, because that's what coaching is about. I've invested in coaches in the past, which has been very useful. Like I mentioned a moment earlier, I've had therapy as well. The great thing about these investments is it's not only there to solve the problem, but it also teaches you how to talk to yourself better. Have you ever been around someone that's been that powerful in your life, that instrumental? And the same goes in a negative way, but we're talking about in the positive sense. But when they leave your life, you end up thinking, what would they say to me? Oh, they said this, and then you use that question, because the quality of your life is down to the quality of the questions you ask yourself. I'll say that again. The quality of your life is down to the quality of the questions that you ask yourself. If you ask yourself poor questions like, why am I so stupid? Your brain is going to think on that level, okay, what's the answer to that? Maybe because that person said it. Maybe because I failed that exam. Your brain doesn't reject the question. Your brain looks to answer the question. So that quality question is not conducive to your self-esteem, to your future, to solving the problem. Whereas a good quality question, and let's say an 8 out of 10 quality question is, in what areas of my life could I be more intelligent? There's a wave, Wayne. In what areas of my life could I be doing better? That's an 8 out of 10 quality question. I've just given an example of a 2 out of 10 quality question, which was, why am I so stupid? Because your brain doesn't reject that question. Instead, it says, okay, what's the answer to that? So it will start looking for evidence of why you're stupid. If you say to yourself, why am I the best bet for this job interview? Why am I irreplaceable in this scenario? Your brain will look for evidence to answer that question. Your brain is like Google. If you go to Google, why is the world such an awful place? It will have pages and pages and pages and pages of negative scenarios, situations going on to confirm that belief. If you go into Google and say, what is amazing about the world? What great acts of kindness have happened today? It will give you pages and pages and pages and pages. So the quality of your life is in direct proportion to the quality of the questions you ask yourself. And then the difficulty there is being aware of the way that you talk to yourself, the conversations that you have. Self-awareness is key. We're going to go full circle back to self-awareness, but I want to go straight into now a formula for anxiety, a formula for depression. And when we understand that formula, we can change that recipe so we can feel in a lot more control, a lot more confidence, a lot more fulfillment, a lot more direction, like I was speaking about a moment before. So anxiety, the formula for anxiety is too much challenge and not enough support. When you have too much challenge in your life, too much unknown, too much what I don't know, too much new stuff that you're not familiar with, and you don't have enough support, that creates an environment for anxiety. Because your brain, your body, your psychology, your physiology has reacted and is clutching at straws, looking for ways to control the situation because there's too much unknown, too much challenge, not enough support. That is the formula for anxiety. So anytime you're in a scenario where, let's say it's a job interview, let's say it's having a difficult conversation with someone, let's say it's setting a boundary with someone, this is very challenging to you, but you don't have the right support. Maybe you don't have enough people to talk to before you go to the interview. Maybe you don't have the right information, the right book smarts to conduct yourself in the interview. So support is low, challenge is high. Neither are bad. Challenge isn't bad. Support isn't bad. It's just the balance is off. Let's quickly jump to depression. Depression is when you've got too much comfort, too much control, too much known, and not enough challenge. I've got all this stuff. I've got this monotony, day-to-day life. It's predictable. You've got all of this comfort, all this support. You know exactly what you need to do. But there's not enough challenge in your life. There's nothing that is asking you in life, we need you to bring more of you to the table. We need more adrenaline, more effort, more thinking, more vitality about you to overcome this challenge. And that's when depression starts to creep in. We start to ask ourselves questions. What's the point? We feel meaningless. We lack purpose. We lack drive. We have a low mood. So to quickly go back through that, anxiety is when you have too much challenge and not enough support. And depression can often be you have too much control and comfort, but you don't have enough challenge. And then obviously we can jump between. Enjoy your run, Siebert. So if we can find a happy medium of increasing the amount of challenge that we have in our life, meaningful challenge. A meaningful challenge is something that is in line with what you value, what you care about. There's no point setting out a challenge, plucking out a challenge from thin air that doesn't really, you don't care about it. You don't care about having abs. You don't care about having six figures. You don't care about having a partner. You don't care about the next thing. If it doesn't matter to you, it's irrelevant. But if it's in line with what you value, what you care about, what you want more of, and you've got a challenge, it's a big enough challenge, but then at the same time, you've got a good enough support network of people, information, you're supporting yourself, you're on your own team. That's the perfect recipe for growth. That is the perfect recipe for growth. When you've got enough support and enough challenge, this challenge is asking you to bring more of you to life. More courage, more tenacity, more engagement, more focus, more discipline. But you've also got the support there with you. That's the perfect recipe for growth. And then going back to the depression dynamic. When I've been depressed in the past, it's been because I've not given myself permission to go and ask for more, to go and try for more. I convinced myself for a year or two that I don't really want more in life. I don't really care about getting out of my comfort zone, achieving more, getting more credits as an actor, getting the PT business that I want, getting in relationships that I want. I'd convinced myself, and that was like a little bit of a safety blanket. If I keep telling myself I don't want more, maybe that will make me feel more comfortable. And I spoke about on previous podcasts, when we get rid of goals, we get rid of life. Goals stands for go out and live. The definition of life is to set goals, try to achieve them. Whether you achieve them or not, you are going out and living. A goal doesn't always have to be a six-pack, six figures, XYZ. It can be to be the best version of you today, to be a good asset to society, to your family. That's a goal. We have an intention, we have a motivation, we have a motive, we have direction, we have purpose, we have meaning. And the more that goal is in line with your purpose, your intrinsic meaning, what things matter to you, the more motivation you'll have. I've slowly digressed there. So I managed to convince myself from a place of comfort and fear that I don't want anything. I don't want any more goals. I don't want any more achievements in my life. But the real truth of it in hindsight, because hindsight's a wonderful thing, is that I was just scared to get out of my comfort zone. I was scared to be in the unknown. I didn't have enough support. I might have had enough external support, but I didn't support myself enough. I had a very negative self-talk. Anytime I didn't know what I was doing, I would beat myself up. And this wasn't conscious, and that's what makes mental health, self-talk, depression, low self-esteem very difficult. Because 9 times out of 10, most people aren't aware that the way that they're talking to themselves. Oh, you're so stupid. You'll never be able to do this. Oh, you better get this right. Otherwise, you're just going to... That's the way people talk to themselves. That's the way I spoke to myself. So I didn't have enough support. How are you ever going to get out your comfort zone? How are you ever going to achieve more, do more, be more? If you're talking to yourself like you ain't worth nothing, you can't do anything. I kind of see it. I have a little visualization in my head of trying to get yourself out of your house. Let's say you're at the door and you're trying to get the better, the newer, the more improved version of you out of this house by talking to yourself in a way that is self-deprecating. You're stupid. But come on, like come out in the cold, come out into the big world and try stuff. But you're also talking to yourself in a very negative way. That's not a good way to coach yourself. You wouldn't talk to a kid that way. You wouldn't talk to your friend that way. You wouldn't encourage anyone by talking down to them. So that was my experience with depression. It wasn't just the fact that I didn't have enough challenge. I probably did have enough challenges, opportunities to face, but I didn't have the courage to go and face them. Someone asked me the other day, you're a lot more confident than you used to be. And we was talking about confidence. And I said to them, what do you think confidence is? And they were like, oh, I'm not really sure. And I said, well, what I think confidence is, or what I've learned is, it's not that I'm confident that when I do stuff, the outcomes are going to be the way that I want, that this podcast is going to be a hit, that when I go and approach someone, that they're going to like me. When I do things, that the outcome's certain. That's not changed. What has changed is my relationship with if it goes wrong. I don't beat myself up nowhere near as much as I used to about if I was to fluff up my words, if I was to make a mistake, if the internet connection wasn't so good, if I went to an interview and I didn't get it, if I spoke to someone and they didn't like me. That's what's changed. I've spoke about this before in the past as well, about courage, because courage isn't acting without fear. Courage requires fear to be there for you to build courage. So I had to build more courage by acting, doing stuff with the fear, with the doubt, with the whatever the case may be. The same goes for strength. You don't get stronger in the gym without the weights, and the weights have to go up for you to get stronger. So it's not that the weight and the resistance is the problem. The resistance and the weight is helping you get stronger. The fear, the doubt, all of that kind of stuff is helping you become more courageous. It's not like one and the other are separate things. One complements the other. Failure is part of success, because if you don't fail, you can't re-navigate. Oh, that doesn't work. Let's go this way then. It's like a relationship. How could you ever have a relationship, a marriage, a a career, anything that's long standing, and you improve without having to re-navigate, and we just call it failure. And then some people are more hard on themselves about failures, and some people have a lot more of a positive self-talk about those situations. So that's what changed for me in becoming more confident. And the less I focus on, oh, what if that goes wrong, and what if that person thinks that, and what if X, Y, Z, and the more I focus on, you know what, I'm going to give the best I can today, and I guarantee there's going to be things that need improving, and when I acknowledge them, I'm going to add that to my toolkit next week. The more enthusiastic I am, the more courageous I am, the more free I am, the more relaxed I am, and then also over time, I'm using that information, adding it to my toolbox, and as I move forward, I get more confident, more assertive, more well-equipped. So I hope that little section there has given you something to think about in regards to when I'm feeling anxious and worried. Too much challenge, not enough support. How can I add some more support to my life? How can I reduce the challenge into smaller pieces? And then if you're feeling depressed and lacking purpose, you've got not enough challenge in your life, or you're not stepping up to challenge, and you've got too much comfort. And that doesn't mean you're lazy, it just means that you haven't either got the positive relationship with yourself to get out your comfort zone, or you don't have goals that are meaningful enough to entice you to get started. One of the coaches I worked with before really flipped the way I thought. He said, you don't need a push to your goal, you need a pull. You don't need someone to push you. Come on, get up and do a workout. Come on, set up that business. Come on, go out and do that. You need a pull that is so strong, something that is so important to you, so meaningful to you, that you don't need a push. It's almost impossible for you to not think about that. And 9 times out of 10, I always say that, 9 times out of 10, most people don't really think about what the things are that are really important to them. You're always thinking about it. It's right under your nose, but you don't give it credit. It clearly matters to you. You clearly go to the gym all the time. You clearly read that type of book. You clearly talk about that topic. You clearly get very passionate about that thing. So you don't need a push to your goals. You need a pull. You need something that's so significant to you, so important to you. Some people it's animals. Some people it's personal development. Some people it's mental health. There's a very long list of things that people hold very dear to themselves that can pull them in the direction of having enough challenge and support, which is the perfect recipe for growth. That's when growth happens. Life is challenging us. It's requiring more of us to move forward. But we also feel a certain level of confidence, self-esteem, courage that we can take one step at a time forwards. So you don't need a push to your goals, you need a pull. So the problems that often contribute to our mental health getting worse and worse are also in the answers. So I've kind of started with the solutions, but the problems often are we don't have enough close relationships with people. And I'd say that's because we're less courageous, we're less open about our struggles, about our feelings, about what's going on for us. And I spoke about this earlier, a problem shared is a problem halved. And if you don't give yourself the grace, the humanity, the permission that, you know what, I'm struggling, and you don't share that with someone that's close to you. Hello, Ollie. If you don't give yourself permission, grace, the humanity to say, you know what, I'm struggling, problems tend to get worse because you often judge yourself more and more for struggling in that area of your life. And oftentimes when I share a problem with a friend or a family, they've been in the situation, they get it. And that just lightens the load significantly. And like I spoke about a few weeks ago, we make problems personal, permanent, and pervasive, and that's what makes them worse. Whereas we need to sprinkle a bit of only. It's just today that I feel that way. It was only one relationship. It was just one interview. That is in the context of life, rather than making it personal, an indication about your character and your worth. Pervasive, you're always going to be unemployed, or you're always going to be single, or you're always going to be feeling this way. And pervasive, this isn't a direct reflection of all facets of your life. You're not a failure in all areas of your life. You failed. I'm going to segue here because I hear this so often and I'm very passionate about this, and I'm going to delicately deliver it. So hopefully you're listening. Many people I hear say, I have depression, I have anxiety, my depression, my anxiety. As much as that may feel true, it doesn't help us when we say, it's mine. I am a depressed person. In Buddhism, I'm a very big fan of Buddhism, read a few books about it. And often it talks about the way you talk to yourself and the way you label yourself. And if you have an identity that I am the depressed person versus I'm a person that experiences depression, is a completely different thing. I don't know if I fluff that up, I'll say it again. I'm a depressed person versus I'm a person that experiences depression at times is different. When you attach something to your identity and you see that as a personal indication of who you are, you and depression are the very same thing. It's very difficult to separate yourself from it, to differentiate and see the times where you're not so depressed. And also when people challenge your depressive thoughts, your depressive experiences, because you identify with it, you feel personally attacked, versus the person that says, I experience depression in this scenario. I experience anxiety in this scenario. And obviously no one has bad intentions when they do this. I've learnt this from my own experiences. I'd encourage anyone to change the language that they use when they talk about depression and anxiety. It's not yours. Someone's not giving it you. It's not a disease. It's something that you're experiencing. It's a part of you, but it doesn't define you. The same goes with anxiety, depression, OCD, XYZ. Because if we believe it defines us, if we think it's a part of our identity, if we think it is our identity, that makes it 10 times harder for us to go off into the world and challenge it and separate ourselves from it. Compartmentalize. They're the times when I feel like that. But actually, sometimes I'm very courageous and open and present, which is definitely true for everyone. I've been depressed in my life. I've had anxious thoughts. There are things that make me anxious or I feel anxious about, but it's not my anxiety. It's not a indication of my character. There's a wave, Andy. So please, I implore everyone to be conscious of the language that they use to describe the anxiety that they experience, the depression that they experience. Experiencing something and being something are two different things. Back on track, I've segued. We've got less relationships nowadays. Even though we've got social media, we can get in touch with people a lot easier. But unfortunately, we're more and more disconnected. So it's the depth, I believe, of relationships that is the problem that is contributing to us not being I'll start that sentence again. In as much of a completely just gone mind blank. We're not in as good of a mentally healthy place by having less relationships and to the depth that we once had them. We won't talk to people about things. We won't open up about things as much as frequently. And I do think this ties in with why it's prevalent in this way with men. Men don't tend to open up about their feelings, as certain stigmas are attached to being vulnerable, to being open. Another problem, I believe, is a lack of acceptance of the unknown, not having the answers. That's been a problem for me for a very long time. I've always been very curious, which is a good thing, but at the same time, it's been a double-edged sword. I want to know the answer to things. I'd want to know certain. I want to know for definite before I can do things. And like I spoke about earlier, the unknown is inevitable. The Buddha said the only constant is change. That's the only definite thing, that things are going to change. But unfortunately, for a very long time, I've craved knowing for definite. If I do this, it's got that outcome. But life doesn't work that way. So we need to practice acceptance. Because the less accepting we are of life, of situations, of things that we can't control, the more het up and angry and frustrated we get at ourselves for not having the answers. So that contributes to a negative self-talk. I don't think we experience enough physical challenge, because physical challenges, obviously I'm a personal trainer, obviously my prerogative is to get people more fitter and healthier, but I am 100% certain physical challenges give us the confidence to withstand and deal with life challenges, because they are a perfect metaphor, and we can see in the mirror the change that we can make if we push, if we're consistent, if we're courageous, if we have faith. Exercise is a great example. Building blocks for life. That's what got me into fitness at a very young age. I loved how it taught me about so many factors that would be important in life. Consistency, getting out your comfort zone, discipline, grit, hard work, all of that kind of stuff. None of the sexy stuff, but the important stuff. So if we have more physical challenge, we will realise in life that squat I did was physically painful. This conversation is just in my head. It kind of changes your perspective on pain and difficulty. Going through physical pain versus hypothetical, in the future, past, X, Y, Z. Also, many studies have shown not just exercise, not just cold water exposure, breath work, breath patterns and breath control has a lot of contributions towards our mental health and how present we are and how much of a fight or flight state we're in. If we're breathing up here in a panic state, our ancestral brains understand that to be fight or flight. There's a line around the corner. Sprint. When we take control of our breath through breath work, or we expose ourselves hypothetically by going in an ice bath or exercising and building that strength and pushing through, we're rehearsing for life. And that tells us, A, be in the present moment, B, we know when to switch off that fight or flight, and we know how to switch it off. Don't know if I said that right. Switch it on and switch it off. Versus never go in there. Oftentimes we might think, you know what, if I always make life more and more comfortable and more easy, that will make life more comfortable and easy, but it doesn't. If anything, you get more and more scared of the unknown, because the unknown gets bigger, because you're restricting the amount of things you'll do, the places you'll go, the challenges you will face. Whereas if you flip your mindset to, I want to do something every single day that is a little bit unknown, a little bit different, a little bit more, you are training yourself to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that ties in with the last one that I've written down, The other problem that we face is that we're used to too much control. Society nowadays is very cushy in comparison to any point in the past. It doesn't mean that we don't have our problems now. It means we have a lot of control, and we've almost become slaves, accustomed to knowing definite, and that becomes quite detrimental to our capacity to deal with, you know what, I can't control that. I can't control what other people think. I can't control if I get that. Because we love science, we love facts, we love definite answers, we love black and white thinking. It's either yes or a no. People come to me and say, if I eat this, is that unhealthy? Well, it depends. People don't like it. You don't like it because you want to control the answer, and you want to know what you do with the answer is definitely the answer, and you're not wasting any time, and it's not wrong, it won't injure you, it won't this, it won't that. Life is still going to happen, folks. That's a definite. So eliminate that from your thinking. That craving for definite answers, definite results, definite comfort is the very thing that is holding you back. It contradicts the point I made about acceptance. Accept that life is going to happen. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy. That doesn't mean you're not going to fall into old patterns of thinking. But it means create a mantra that what things can I control today, and what things can't I control, where I can practice acceptance. I can't control how that person talks to me. I can't control how that person responds. I can't control how many people watch this podcast. But what I can control is the amount of energy I bring, the amount of focus, the amount of courage I have, X, Y, Z, all the corny stuff. So the solutions from me are exercise more, build more confidence in your body. Your physiology affects your psychology and vice versa. Spend more time in nature. Many studies have shown being outdoors, being connected with nature, being connected to the vastness of the big world makes you realise how insignificant certain small thoughts are, small experiences are. Water, running, parks, X, Y, Z. Animals as well. That wasn't even on the list, but that's just come to my head. Being around animals are so present. They are great for your mental health. Sleep. When we have poor sleep, it impacts our energy, it impacts our focus, it impacts our habits, and that can be a slippery slope. So not having good sleep is more of a problem, whereas having sleep is just kind of like the baseline. But not having sleep or good quality sleep is not great for your mental health. Communication with other people, talking to people, a problem shared is a problem halved, giving yourself permission to say, you know, I'm struggling today, I'm not perfect, I'm struggling with this thing. And if you can't communicate with someone else, communicate with yourself. If you create a better self-talk, you talk to yourself in a more compassionate and supportive way, rather than threatening yourself and blaming yourself, punishing yourself, blackmailing yourself, X, Y, Z, you will become more solution oriented rather than problem oriented. I'm not sure if you're aware that some people have a problem for every solution, but some people have a solution for every problem. Which one do you want to be? The next step I'd say is set goals. Goals are what life is made of. Goal stands for go out and live. Without goals, you lack purpose, meaning, direction, challenge. And without purpose, without meaning, without a pull forward into the next day, to the next month, the next year, we start to fall into certain unproductive questions such as, what's the point? What am I doing all this for? X, Y, Z. And then the final one is to be more present. How do we be more present? That's very easier said than done, Brenton, but I'm going to give you some things that I do to stay present, because I'm a firm believer that where your focus goes, energy flows. If you focus on what you have, you feel more grateful. If you focus on what you don't have, you feel quite bitter and resentful. If you focus on what you can do, you feel empowered. If you focus on what you can't do, you feel powerless, you feel anxious. So to be more present, be connected with your senses in the present moment, your body, how you feel, the temperature, through what you can hear, sounds, what you can smell, what you can taste, what you can see. Your breath is an anchor into the present moment. I've learned that through a lot of meditation. Creating the thought pattern that this is where I relax, the present moment, here, right now, rather than, oh, once I get that thing, once I go there, once I say that, once that email list is done, that's when I'm calm. You are creating a negative association with being in the present. Your association with being in the present, being here, being with yourself is, oh gosh, I should be doing something. I should be somewhere else. Something's going wrong. Let's flip it. Yes, I need to go out into the world. I need to send emails. I need to do this. I need to talk to that person. But I come back to myself because that is the present moment. That's the one thing that I have control of. And the more frequently we are in the present moment, the more we start to focus on what we can control, what we can do. Because for me, anxiety is having a lack of anchor, a lack of a foundation to come back to. And that connects with what I mentioned before, confidence. The willingness to go and do something, but then I might fail. But you know what? Because I've got a foundation of, you know what, I'm good enough anyway. I'll try it. Versus, I'm not going to do anything because I already feel unstable anyway. I don't have a foundation. So why try anything? Why do anything? I've gone on pretty long today. It's a very important topic. I hope it's helped someone today. We've spoke about my experiences with mental health, where I noticed I was struggling and how I've combated it, not just through habits, but also a big factor has been the way I talk to myself, the way I treat myself, my relationship with myself, as well as my relationship with the unknown, with the past, with the people. And for anyone that's struggling, you're not alone. You're not the first one. You're not the last. And that doesn't mean your experience isn't important, but it means there's other people that have got through it. And it doesn't mean you're going to be any different. Sharing your problems halves your problems. Having challenges in life is good. Your relationship with challenges is a massive factor in how anxious and confident you are. So embrace challenges, reach out for support, because the direct correlation of that, like I said, enough challenge and enough support is the perfect recipe for growth. And then finally, I'd say focus on small habits, small wins which build confidence. I wake up in the morning and I meditate for 5 minutes. I wake up in the morning and I write down 10 things I'm grateful for. I wake up in the morning and I do something that I like for me. That's a sense of gratitude. I get to do this. It's not just about I've got to go to work. I get to do this. Spend time outdoors, move more, walk more, talk more, and so on. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this has helped someone today. Today I've just posted, I'm giving out 6 weeks of free coaching for 6 people. When you start today, you'll be starting your coaching from the 1st of January, but you're going to get free coaching from today up till then. Drop me a direct message saying Christmas. I want to help 6 people learn how to drop some weight before Christmas, still enjoy social events, not conform to the, all or nothing mindset next year by eating what they want throughout Christmas from a place of guilt, frustration, and then on January 1st, punishing themselves to undo all of the let's say, bad work that they've done over Christmas. There is a happy medium. I'm going to teach you how to enjoy Christmas even more, enjoy the foods that you eat, get in shape in advance, and then start off in the new year from a place of compassion, enthusiasm, and confidence rather than